300 is a lot more than just a number, or a movie, or a graphic novel. Welcome to Pastrami Nation Issues. Hello everybody, this is Nolan Smith, editor and co-founder of Pastrami Nation, the meat of pop culture. I am back with Pastrami Nation Issues, the audio-only podcast dedicated to the review of single-issue comic books. So no trade paperbacks, no collections here, just issues. For today, I am talking about the biggest book released this week, easily. It's a groundbreaking book, it's a milestone, and it's a joy to have been able to check this out and review it. I am talking about Spawn number 300 from Image Comics. Spawn, of course, is created by Todd McFarlane, and this book is by Todd McFarlane with pencils by Greg Capullo, by Jason Sean Alexander, by Jerome Opina, and by Todd McFarlane himself, with writing also by Scott Snyder. So before we jump into the issue, of course, why is this so groundbreaking? This is the first indie book to reach number 300. Todd McFarlane took a gamble all those years ago when he and his fellow creators left Marvel and they formed Image Comics. By forming Image Comics, they changed the landscape of the comic book industry. So to see Spawn number 300 hit the shelves, it's quite the accomplishment. I have been a fan of Spawn since I was a kid. I remember going to the local comic shop back then. It was Comic Castle. And I remember I would always buy Spider-Man and, Batman, G.I. Joe. And I saw this really sinister book on the shelves with this guy that looked kind of like Spider-Man and Venom, but with like a skull in the logo. And I thought, wow, like that's a really mature book. And later on, of course, I began to read it and realized that it is a really fantastic book. Spawn, of course, is the story of Al Simmons, a man who was, pretty much a killer for hire in the military, and he loses his wife, and he goes to hell, and he is offered this chance to come back, but he comes back as this hell spawn. So he has these powers. His entire body is like scabbed and horribly scarred, and he takes on monsters. He takes on the forces of hell and of heaven, and it's a really, really tremendous read. So with 300 is of course such an accomplishment. We get quite a few different stories here. We get one that goes along with the main story of Al Simmons, Spawn, once again trying to find who killed his wife. And this takes him down the path to a very familiar face. And he is once again caught in the middle of heaven and hell. And we also learn something about Spawn and his powers. And we get a really cool scene at the end of that first chapter that will change things for Spawn, but in a good way. It just shows you that he's more of a badass than you probably thought. It's a really, really cool story. It sets the ground for 301, which hits, of course, next month. And it brings back some familiar faces that, of course, is always awesome to see. There are other stories besides just the main story, of course. You have a story with the Redeemer, who is this, I want to say awesomely designed, but just about every character you come across in Spawn has a killer design. Redeemer is part of course, the forces of heaven, and we get to see a massive change for Redeemer. We also get to see a massive change for Jessica Priest in another story. And we get to see these creators that are guesting on this book really let loose in the Spawn universe. Greg Capullo, of course, for me, next to Todd McFarlane, he is the iconic Spawn artist. Like, those two nail it. I'm not going to lie, though. I love seeing J. Scott Campbell's artwork in here. Big fan of J. Scott Campbell. I'm a big fan of all the artists in here. This is a massive book, and it deserves to be celebrated. Not just off of its accomplishment of being number 300, but by being an enjoyable comic book. I thoroughly enjoyed Spawn number 300. It was definitely a trip down memory lane for me, being a fan of Spawn since pretty much the beginning to now at this massive milestone. If you have not picked it up, I definitely urge you to head to your comic shop and pick this up. I am going to give Spawn number 300 a 9.0 out of 10. There's like a million covers, well, not quite a million, but quite a few covers, and I definitely recommend you check out these covers and pick which one best suits you. Personally, for me, it had to be the Todd McFarlane one and the J. Scott Campbell cover. Both look terrific, but there are so many good covers here. It's absolutely a celebration of what an indie book can do. And then right now I'm looking at that very last chapter of And Prophecies, which could go in so many different ways. And hopefully we get to see a little bit more of that in 301. If you are local to the High Desert, head over to Linebreakers on 7th Street in Victorville. They have tons of the different covers available. That is where I picked mine up on a midnight release. If you are not local, make sure you visit your local comic shop and let them know you want Spawn 300. Of course, you can read it digitally as well. Personally, I like reading things in physical form. I mean, you got to hold the comic book, you don't have to, but just enhances it, right? So make sure you go pick that up. And while you're at it, make sure you visit pastramination.com for news, reviews, videos, cosplay, contests, giveaways, and more. Find us on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, and on YouTube. And if you like listening to these issues, you can find us on SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, Podcast Republic, and more. I thank you once again for tuning in. I'm really having a blast doing these, so if you have a book that you would like us to check out, let me know. Drop me an email, nolan@pastramination.com, or just hit up one of our social media outlets and message us through there, and it goes straight to me. Thank you once again. Signing off, this is Nolan Smith with Pastrami Nation, the beat of pop culture.